Spotlight.
This is Akashvani. In the program Spotlight, now we bring you a discussion on Union Cabinet decisions. The participants are Dinesh Mahur, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Mines, and Harvir Singh, Agriculture Expert. Moderator is Niharika Bhuwania, Anchor.
Well, today has been an eventful day indeed, with the Cabinet approving two major decisions, one of them being the approval for the launch of the National Critical Mineral Mission with an expenditure of around rupees 16,300 crores. The National Critical Mission encompassing all stages of the value chain, including mineral exploration, mining, beneficiation, processing, and recovery from end-of-life products. And on the other hand, the Cabinet has also approved revision of ethanol procurement price for public sector oil marketing companies for the ethanol supply 2024-25 starting from 1st November 2024 to 31st October 2025. And it's a privilege to be in conversation this evening with Dinesh Mahur, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Mines, and Harvir Singh, Agricultural Expert. A warm welcome to both our experts, and thank you so much for joining us in the studios of Akashvani for a discussion on both of these decisions.
Thank you, Niharika.
Beginning with the Critical Minerals Mission, first of all, for ease of understanding, could you tell us what critical minerals are and how are they different from the usual minerals that we are aware of, for example, iron ore?
Like normal minerals, we all know about aluminium, we know about iron ore, we know about bauxite and many other minerals. But why some minerals are known as critical or are defined as critical by the government? Like these minerals which are essential for economic development and national security, and lack of availability of these minerals and concentration of existence, extraction or processing of these minerals in few geographical locations may lead to supply chain vulnerability and disruptions. And as on date, the government had defined 24 minerals as the critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, potash, and most of these minerals we are dependent on the imports to fulfill the requirement of the industry, defense or anything like agriculture. That is why these minerals are critical.
And in the light of that, that also brings me to a very important point about the launch of the National Critical Mineral Mission. So, apart from exploration of these critical minerals within the country, is there also going to be exploration in its offshore areas? And what else does the mission entail and what gap mainly does it seek to fulfill?
In fact, this mission has 7 important components. One is to increase the domestic production. Second is foreign acquisition of critical mineral assets. Third is recycling. Fourth is trade, like we enter into agreement with the different countries. Then one component is promoting R&D and skilling of the manpower and fiscal incentive to the people and companies involved in the critical minerals.
Right. And, you mentioned a very important point about reducing dependency on foreign imports. So that also brings me to a very important point in the ethanol decision. So here is where I would like to bring in our agriculture expert, Harvir ji. So Harvir ji, again, for ease of understanding, let's begin by talking about what is ethanol blending and also the benefit it will have for farmer welfare and reducing foreign oil imports, since reducing foreign dependency is a component of both of these decisions that were taken today.
Actually, as per our energy point of view, ethanol is a very important fuel, and we are going successfully ahead in this ethanol blending program. Basically, ethanol blending in petrol started early 2004-5 on pilot basis. Then the government went ahead, and from 2013-14, we tried to increase the percentage of the ethanol blending in petrol. And now government is targeting to achieve a 20% of ethanol blending in petrol by the year of 25-26. Right now, the last ethanol supply year 23-24 crossed 14% level, and I think the current supply year will achieve around 18%. To basically enhance the supply and to make the producers this ethanol production beneficial, so government just today made the decision to increase the price for C-heavy molasses ethanol. Basically, there are multiple ways to produce ethanol, like grain. From grain, we produce ethanol through maize and rice. But initially, it started with the molasses, which derived from when we process sugarcane juice for production of sugar. At the first stage, it is B heavy molasses, which has more content of sugar. Then after extracting more sugar from B heavy, the remaining molasses is C heavy molasses. When we produce ethanol from C heavy molasses, that is called C heavy molasses ethanol. And for that, government today increased the price from 56 rupees 58 paisa per liter to 57 rupees 97 paisa, as you mentioned, for the current ethanol supply year. It is very important because the blending of ethanol into petrol basically is good for environmental purpose because it is a clean fuel. At the same time, it also reduces our dependency on import of crude oil, and it is basically benefiting us on economic front as well as on environmental front. At the same time, it is good for the sugar industry and the sugarcane farmers because it has created a very good revenue stream for sugar mills to make reasonable good payment to the farmers. I think a win-win situation for the country on the economic front as well as the rural economy and the sugar industry.
Well, that gives us a very comprehensive picture of the ethanol blending program. And, talking about the 2 points, one is reduction in foreign dependency and the other, the environmental benefits. So here is where I would like to bring in our Joint Secretary again and talk about how the National Critical Mineral Mission also seeks to achieve both of these goals. So can you talk to us briefly about how the mission is placed and what all is it going to do to achieve these two objectives?
As I mentioned earlier, that most of the critical minerals which we have defined as on date, we are much dependent on the imports. Like if we talk about lithium, cobalt, nickel, we are 100% dependent on the imports. Similarly, the potash is a very important content for the agriculture use for making the fertilizers. So I have already talked about the various components. The one component was increasing the domestic production. If we increase the domestic production of these critical minerals, then our import dependency will decrease. And the second component was that foreign acquisition of critical mineral missions. That way, our companies will go to foreign land and acquire the critical mineral assets outside, and they will supply those critical minerals to India. That way, we would be able to get at more reasonable prices because of our companies involved in that. Third important component was recycling. You know that in your home also you must have some 4-5 mobile phones lying as it is because there is no clear-cut policy that motivates the people to get it recycled. If we get the things recycled and of products recycled, we will be able to get some critical minerals because these devices use critical minerals. They can be re-extracted and reused. So that way the import dependence will decrease. That way we'll be able to save the foreign exchange and import dependency.
And I understand that this project will also require a huge financial outlay. So from what is known so far, there is an expenditure of about 16,300 crores. And there's also significant involvement of bodies like the Geological Survey of India or Kabil, which is a joint venture of the Ministry of Mines, as also Indian PSUs. So can you briefly talk to us about the financial outlay and the involvement of these bodies?
So you have rightly pointed out that total government expenditure on the mission period is 7 years, including the current year, and up to 2030-31. So total 16,300 crore has been kept for this thing, out of which only 2,600 crore is the budget allocation. Rest of the funds, like 4,000 crore, will come from the budget of Geological Survey of India, which is the premier exploration agencies in India. Then 8,700 crore rupees will come from a fund which has been created for promoting exploration in India. The fund is National Mineral Exploration Trust, which has been created in the year 2015 through Act Amendment. And presently we are in a process to expand the reach of this fund because right now it is only applicable to India. Then after amendment of the structure, it will be applicable to the offshore areas and foreign countries also. That way we will be able to spend, we are targeting to spend 8,700 crore rupees on that. And further, from the funds of Department of Science and Technology for R&D, 1,000 crore is being planned for that. Apart from that, we are expecting to motivate the PSUs and other companies to spend around 18,000 crore rupees for exploration and mining of the critical minerals in India and abroad.
Absolutely. And I would also like to briefly bring in the revenue that goes to the states as a part of this mission. So from what is known, is this also a step towards equitable development since the revenue goes entirely to a state? So in today's briefing, the minister also mentioned Odisha and its financial health as regards, the larger picture.
Let me clarify to you that generally the auctions of the minerals, any kind of minerals, including the critical minerals, being done by the state governments. But keeping in view the criticalities of this mineral, in the year 2023, through an amendment, the power of auctioning the critical mineral blocks has been given to central government. Now central government do the auction, and after auctioning and selecting the bidder, they hand over this to the state government for further issuing LOI and license and all. The royalty which is accrued from the critical minerals or any other mineral go to the state government. If the production of critical mineral increases, the state government are bound to gain from that.
Here is where I would also like to bring in our agriculture expert, Harvir ji, again. So, talking about the bodies involved in both of these missions. Under the EBP program, investments have happened across the country in the form of network of greenfield and brownfield distilleries and storage and logistic facilities. So, has it also led to employment generation in any way? And has it also led to sharing of value within the country in any way? And also, what benefit does it have for farmers who are growing sugarcane?
Yes, it is very important that investment for basically establishing ethanol production unit, particular distilleries, is going to the rural area because most of the distilleries are rural areas and ethanol production is based on, as I told earlier, that grain and sugar cane. So now with government's encouragement and made it very easy for the companies to set up distilleries, clearances were made very basically speeded up. Also government gave interest subvention on long-term loan. So due to this, I think we have almost 1,713 crore liter per annum ethanol distillation capacity in the country. And all these distilleries are coming up in mostly in rural areas. So on the one hand, it is enhancing basically employment opportunities for the people in rural areas when you have production unit as well as logistics and transportation facilities are being created. So it creates a lot of jobs. At the same time, it is infusing investment in the rural economy. So it is good for the farmer as well as other rural people also are getting benefited out of this. On the other hand, it is good for the country's economy because it is also reducing our dependence on import. As per the government data, in the last 10 years, the government has saved more than 1 lakh crore of the forex earning, basically exchange, which was supposed to be spent on import of crude oil. And on the other hand, it's good for environmentally, good for our country on that front also. So we have all the benefits and it has created, as I mentioned, that very good revenue stream for sugar mills to pay farmers timely. So it has also given a flexibility. There is a production of sugarcane higher than the country's requirement of sugar. So mills can directly use cane juice for producing the ethanol. So that gives a buffer to the industry from the crash of prices of sugar, which is good for the farmer and the industry.
That was a very well-rounded discussion on both the important decisions taken by the cabinet. I would like to thank both our experts for joining us this evening on Spotlight.
Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on Union Cabinet decisions. The participants were Dinesh Mahur, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Mines, and Harvir Singh, Agriculture Experts. Moderator was Niharika Bhuwania, Anchor. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of Akashvani.
Spotlight.